Math in the Kitchen. Fractions by Ian F. Mahaney. Math is everywhere. Math is part of everything we do. Even when you are in the kitchen, you can practice math. You measure, count, and use time in the kitchen. When a recipe calls for 1/2 cup flour, you need to understand fractions. We will take a closer look at fractions in the kitchen. Fractions help us understand parts of a whole number. Often people cut sandwiches in 2 pieces. Together, the 2 pieces make up the whole sandwich. However, we need fractions to talk about how one of the pieces relates to the whole. This fraction is 1/2. Pizza fractions. What is more fun than pizza for dinner? Many pizzas are cut into 8 equal slices. One slice is 1/8 of a pizza. This fraction shows that one slice is part of a whole pizza. Similarly, 2 slices can be expressed as 2/8 of a pizza. A diagram can help you understand parts of a pizza and other fractions. Fractions have 2 parts. The top number is the numerator. The bottom number is the denominator. In a pizza, the denominator is the total number of slices. Breakfast by the numbers. You can start your day with fractions at breakfast. Some boxes of cereal have 11 servings. That means that when you eat 1 serving of cereal, you have eaten 1/11 of the cereal in the box. When a family of 5 eats 1 serving each, we can figure out what portion of the box they have eaten by adding the fractions. 1/11 plus 1/11 plus 1/11 plus 1/11 plus 1/11 equals 5/11. When denominators are the same, you can add fractions by adding the numerators and placing the sum over the denominator. Time to go. There are 60 minutes in an hour. Pretend you have 45 minutes to eat breakfast and walk to school. That is 45/60ths of an hour. It takes you 15 minutes to eat. To determine the time you have to walk to school, you can subtract the numerators if the denominators are the same. The remaining time you have to walk to school is 45/60ths minus 15/60ths equals 30/60ths of an hour. That is 30 minutes. You can simplify 30/60ths by dividing the numerator and denominator by 30. 30 divided by 30 equals 1, and 60 divided by 30 equals 2. Your new fraction is 1/2, or half an hour. Lunch fractions. You can show your fraction skills at lunch, too. Do you remember the sandwich cut in half in Chapter 1? That sandwich has 2 parts. What would you do if you needed 4 parts to share your sandwich with 3 friends? You can make 4 pieces by cutting the halves in half again. Each piece is 1/4 of the sandwich. Whole numbers like 2 and 3 can be made into fractions. Place a 1 in the denominator of any whole number to make the fractions 2/1 and 3/1. Making whole numbers into fractions will help you multiply fractions in the next chapter. Baking dessert. To multiply fractions, multiply the numerators and put the product in the numerator of the answer. Then multiply the denominators and put the product in the denominator of the answer. Here is an example in the kitchen. Ed finds a recipe for 8 cookies. 1 cup flour, 1/2 cup sugar, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1/2 cup butter, 1 egg, 1 cup chocolate chips. He decides to double the recipe and bake 16 cookies. Doubling means he will multiply all the ingredients by 2. When multiplying fractions by 2, 2 can be expressed as the fraction 2/1. For example, he will need 2 times 1 equals 2 cups flour. 2 times 1/2 equals 2/1 times 1/2 equals 2 times 1 divided by 1 times 2 equals 2/2 cup sugar. Finishing that with division results in 1 cup sugar. Snack math. It is a good thing you have learned about fractions because it is snack time. Today's snack is grapes. There are 60 grapes in the bunch that will be split among 4 kids. You could hand each kid 1 grape at a time until the grapes run out, or you can use fractions. The grapes need to be split 4 ways, so each kid will have 1/4 of 60 grapes. You can find the answer by multiplying the fraction by the whole number. 1/4 times 60. Remember that multiplying by 1/4 is the same as dividing by 4. 60 divided by 4 equals 15. Each kid will get 15 grapes. Dinner division. Say there are 3 containers of potato salad in your refrigerator. Each one weighs 2 pounds, and your family eats 1 container at dinner. You say, "We ate 1/3 of the potato salad." Your sister says, "No, we ate 2/6 of the potato salad." You are both right. There are two ways to express the amount of potato salad you ate. One is that you have eaten 1 of 3 containers of potato salad. The other is that you ate 2 of 6 pounds of potato salad. These fractions are equivalent, and the number line can help you compare them. Fractions in the kitchen. You have learned how to understand fractions as part of a whole. You have also added fractions and subtracted fractions. You have even multiplied fractions and divided amounts of food. Great job! There are many more fractions you can find in the kitchen. If there are 4 bananas on your counter which weigh 1 pound total, each banana weighs 1/4 of a pound. There are spices to measure and coffee to make. How many more fractions can you think of in the kitchen? Parts of Speech by Kara Murray. Words at work. The English language has many words. Every word belongs to a certain group, called a part of speech. There are 8 parts of speech. They are nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. Each word in a sentence has a special job. Parts of speech tell us what a word's job is. A word may name something. It could describe something. It may even tell us what action is happening. We use parts of speech every time we read, write, and speak. They're the building blocks of sentences. Nouns are for naming. A noun is a word that names a person, place, thing, or idea. Anything that exists, whether we can touch it with our hands or only imagine it, has a name. That name is a noun. There are 2 kinds of nouns. Common nouns tell us who or what something is. Man, girl, and doctor are nouns that tell us who someone is. School, mouse, and garden are nouns that tell us what something is. Proper nouns name a specific person, place, or thing. They're always capitalized, no matter where they are in a sentence. Let the pronouns handle it. Pronouns are words that take the place of nouns. The words he, she, and it are just a few examples. Pronouns give us a way to talk about nouns without always having to use their names. Before we can know what a pronoun refers to, we must know the noun it's replacing. Look at the following sentences. I finished my sister's sandwich. She only ate half. It's clear that the pronoun she takes the place of the noun sister. Using the pronoun she meant we didn't have to use the noun sister twice. Verbs in action. Verbs are words that show action. They tell us what someone or something does. Verbs are important parts of sentences. Without them, nothing would happen. Verbs must always agree with the subject of the sentence. If the subject of the sentence is singular, or there's only one, the verb must also be singular. If the subject is plural, or more than one, the verb must also be plural. To make a singular verb, you often add an s to the end of it. Plural verbs often do not end in s. Awesome adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe nouns. Adjectives tell us what someone or something is like. They usually come before the noun they describe. Pretty, happy, and proud are just a few examples. Nouns without adjectives can sometimes be boring. The nouns dress, baby, and lion don't say much on their own. Adding adjectives can really make them shine. Once you read pretty dress, happy baby, and proud lion, you imagine things more clearly. Adjectives are fun to use in your writing, but don't use too many. It only takes a few to make your writing great. Adverbs are amazing. There may come a time when you want to describe a verb. One part of speech does just that, adverbs. These adverbs tell us when, where, and how something happened. We can use adverbs to make our sentences more interesting. If there's a big storm outside, you could say, the thunder rumbled. Or you could add an adverb and say, the thunder rumbled loudly. Loudly adds something exciting to the sentence, which makes it more fun to read. Adverbs are commonly used to describe verbs. However, they can describe other parts of speech too. Perfect prepositions. Prepositions are another important part of speech. Prepositions show how nouns and pronouns relate to other words in a sentence. Look at the sentence, the pencil is on the desk. The word on is the preposition, and it tells us exactly where something is. This is how we know the relationship between the pencil and the desk. Prepositions can also tell us when something happens. Look at the sentence, I brush my teeth before bed. Before is the preposition. It tells us when you brush your teeth. Prepositions have a lot of power. Changing them can change your sentence entirely. Conjunctions, the joiners. Can't seem to figure out how to bring parts of a sentence together? A conjunction can help you with that. Conjunctions help us join sentences, phrases, and words. The most common conjunctions are and, but, or, for, so, and yet. And is a conjunction that tells you more, such as in the sentence, we went to the beach and swam in the ocean. But is a conjunction that makes a contrast. Watch how it works in the sentence, I'm sick, but I went to school. Try thinking of some more examples using other conjunctions. Interjections. Wow! There's one more part of speech left to learn. Hooray! It's called an interjection, and you just read one. Hooray is an interjection. Interjections are parts of speech that state strong emotions. They're usually followed by an exclamation point. Ouch! Yay! Oh! Wow! And oops are some interjections you may be familiar with. All parts of speech are special on their own, but putting them together creates something great. The next time you sit down to write, try adding some adverbs or naming some nouns. It's a great way to build your language skills.
Antonyms and Synonyms by Kara Murray. The right words for the job. Have you ever sat down to write something but couldn't think of the right words to use? This can happen when you're speaking too. Writers choose words that fit the message they're trying to tell us. Luckily, there are many words to choose from, and they all have certain meanings. Choosing the right words is an important language skill. Antonyms and synonyms are parts of language that help us with this. Antonyms are words that mean the opposite of each other. Synonyms are words that have the same or similar meanings. Using antonyms and synonyms. Antonyms and synonyms help describe things. Antonyms help us describe opposites, such as an elephant and a mouse. An elephant is big, and a mouse is small. Big and small are antonyms. Synonyms help us do something without using the same word over and over. They can be swapped out of a sentence without changing its meaning. If you feel happy, you don't always have to use the word happy. You can also say you feel glad or cheerful. Happy, glad, and cheerful have similar meanings, so they're synonyms. All about antonyms. It's not hard to come up with antonyms. The opposite of something is usually easy to guess, especially when a word has a clear opposite. Wet and dry are words with clear antonyms. Wet is the clear opposite of dry, just as dry is the clear opposite of wet. But hold on, it's not always that simple. Some words have many antonyms. The opposite of big is small, but that's not the only one. Tiny and little are opposites of big, too, making antonyms with prefixes. Picture this. You sit down to write an essay. You want to include antonyms, but you don't know many off the top of your head. Don't worry. You can make antonyms in no time at all. Sometimes all you have to do is add a prefix to a root word. A prefix goes at the beginning of a word and changes its meaning. Many prefixes turn words into their opposite. One prefix that does this is un. If you want to make an antonym for happy, simply add un, and now you have unhappy. See how easy it is? Studying synonyms. Have you ever found yourself saying, "What's another word for?" You may have known it then, but you were looking for a synonym. Most words have many synonyms. You may wonder why there are so many words that mean the same thing. Well, it's simple. Synonyms give your writing variety. You have many choices, so you don't always have to use the same word. This keeps your writing and speech from being boring or repetitive. Plus, knowing synonyms is a great way to build your vocabulary. Shades of meaning. Each word in our language has its own special meaning. It's important to remember that synonyms are not the same word. They're very similar, but their meanings are often slightly different. For example, running and jogging are synonyms. They both describe a way of moving your body. However, running means moving very quickly. Jogging means moving quickly, but not as quickly as running. If you see someone running, you can't always say that he or she is jogging too. Tools of the trade. The English language has a huge number of words. It's impossible to know them all. There's one tool you can use to help you unlock the world of synonyms and antonyms. It's a thesaurus. A thesaurus is a book that lists words and their synonyms and antonyms. Writers use a thesaurus to find the perfect word for what they're trying to say. Imagine you want to replace the word jump with a synonym. A thesaurus may list leap, hop, or spring. Choose the one that fits your writing best. And ta-da! You've just used a thesaurus to improve your writing. Test it out. Now that you know all about antonyms and synonyms, it's time to put them to use. Try including them in your next essay or school project. Sometimes the first word that comes to mind may be one you've already used. This is a good time to use a synonym. Antonyms can come in handy while writing too. They're very helpful in opinion pieces. Try describing the opposite of what you want before telling readers what you actually want. If readers can see both sides, they may agree with yours. A writer's toolbox. Knowing how to find the perfect synonym or antonym and when to use it is part of becoming a good writer. Great writers, though, take care to find the right word. Don't pick just any word without truly knowing what it means. Remember, sometimes the best word is not the biggest word. Finding the right words to tell others your ideas will bring your writing to life. It's always good to learn new words. Learning synonyms and antonyms gives you many new tools for your writing toolbox. Rhymes and Rhythms by Kara Murray. Rhyme time. Read the following sentence out loud. It's time to learn how to rhyme. You may notice that rhyme and time sound alike. That's what a rhyme is. Two words that sound the same. Rhyming words have the same ending sounds. They may start with different letters, or they may be spelled differently. That's okay. As long as the ending sounds match, the words rhyme. Rhyming helps us learn all the different sounds words can make. This helps us speak, read, and write better. Rhyming can be fun. Read on to see what you can do with rhyming words. All in the family. The first step in learning how to rhyme is to become familiar with different sounds. Every word in the English language sounds a certain way. Where does the sound come from? It comes from the letters that make up the word. Each letter has its own sound. When you put letters together, you combine their sounds and make a word. Groups of words that have the same letters and the same sound are called word families. The shared letters and sound are found at the end of all the words in the family. Telling spelling. Let's try using word families to help us rhyme. Suppose you want to find words that rhyme with dog. Break the word into its sounds. Dog has two, the d sound and the og sound. The letters og are a word family. Now think of other words that end in the og sound. Frog, log, and hog are just a few. The words we came up with are spelled the same, except for the beginning. This can be a good trick for rhyming. If you see the same combination of letters at the end of words, they probably rhyme. Sounds about right. Spelling can often help you rhyme. Sometimes, however, you can throw everything you know about spelling right out the window. That's because rhyming is about the way words sound, not the way they're spelled. The English language has many words that rhyme, even though they look nothing alike. Why does this happen? It all goes back to the letters and the sounds they make. For example, the words fair and there are made of different letters. They rhyme because the sound made by the letters AIR matches the sound made by the letters ERE. Poems for children. Now that you know how to rhyme, when and where can you use it? Rhymes are used most often in poetry. Poems can be as short as 2 lines or as long as you want. Poems often have lines that end in rhyming words. Words in the same line can rhyme too. Nursery rhymes are poems for kids. One of the most famous is Hey Diddle Diddle. This poem is shown on the next page. Can you find all the rhymes? Get rhythm. If you really love rhyming and want to use it to create your own poems, there's nothing stopping you. But there's another part of language you should know about first. It's called rhythm. Rhythm is the way the words flow in a sentence. The flow of the words creates a pattern of sounds. Patterns make things sound pleasing to our ears. Rhythm can be tough to understand because you can't see it with your eyes. You can only hear it with your ears. Let's learn how words can be used to create rhythm. Stressed and unstressed. In music, rhythm is the way notes flow in a song. This flow is made up of a pattern of beats. Some beats are stressed or stronger, other beats are unstressed or weaker. Together, these beats create rhythm. Words have stressed and unstressed parts too. The stressed and unstressed parts are determined by how many syllables a word has. One-syllable words can be stressed or unstressed when they're used in poems. Words with many syllables have one syllable that's stronger than the others. Put it together. Stressed and unstressed syllables affect how we pronounce a word. What happens when you put words together and create a sentence? The sentence has stressed and unstressed parts too. Going back and forth between stressed and unstressed syllables creates rhythm, which sounds pleasing to our ears. Read the following sentences out loud. My brother ate a sandwich. My sister ate some grapes. Do you notice a pattern? Every other syllable is stressed. You can rewrite the sentences to show what's stressed and unstressed. My brother ate a sandwich. My sister ate some grapes. Your turn to learn. Rhythm and rhyme are used all the time. It may surprise you where they pop up. We know rhythm and rhyme are important parts of poetry, but did you know they're used in music too? Your favorite songs probably have lyrics that rhyme. The instruments and the way a singer sings create rhythm. For these reasons, many people think songs are poetry set to music. Now it's your turn to put your skills to work. Get started by thinking of words that sound the same. You may be surprised at how many words our language contains. Earth's Driest Places by Mary Griffin. Rain, rain, come again. Have you ever sat outside on a hot summer day and noticed how a lack of rain affects your environment? Without moisture, the ground dries up and cracks form. Grass begins to look brown, plants sag, and flowers die. Just one rainstorm can restore the color and health of plants. Some places around the globe never get that rainstorm. Many are located where rain clouds hardly ever reach them. So how do plants, animals, and people survive there? It's not easy. Drought versus always dry. A drought is a long period of very dry weather affecting crops and water supplies. The worst drought in U.S. history occurred from about 1933 to 1938. The hardest hit area covered plains states, including Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. But 80% of the nation was affected. The earth was so dry that the area was called the Dust Bowl. However, there are some places around the world that never get enough rain. They're dry year-round. It's as if they're having a never-ending drought, cold and dry. You might think the driest place on Earth is hot, but it's the opposite. It's freezing cold. The driest location in the world is in the area of Antarctica called Dry Valleys. How dry is it? It hasn't gotten any rain, snow, or other precipitation for about 2 million years. Nearby mountains block sea ice from entering the valley, and winds carrying moisture never enter the area. There are a few ice-covered lakes, however. Amazingly, at the bottom of one of the lakes, Lake Vanda, the water is as warm as 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 degrees Celsius. The Atacama Desert. The next driest place in the world is in South America. The Atacama Desert is located in the country of Chile. The desert stretches 600 miles, 966 kilometers. It's located between two mountain chains, the Cordillera de la Costa to the west and the foothills of the Andes to the east. In the center of this desert, rain hasn't fallen since people began keeping records of precipitation. In this place, there are no plants and no animals. Not even insects buzz around. The Andes effect. The Atacama Desert is so dry because of its location near the Andes. Rain from the Atlantic Ocean falls on the eastern side of the Andes. To the west, a cold Pacific Ocean current travels up the coast, but the cold air with it doesn't carry any moisture. However, more than 1 million people live in parts of the Atacama. They live in cities by the coast, so they have access to water and fish. Farmers raise crops in the north thanks to irrigation systems. Still, it's not an easy place to live. Ica, Peru. The city of Ica in Peru is north of Chile and lies on the northern border of the Atacama Desert. It gets about 0.09 inches, 2.29 millimeters, of precipitation per year. The area is so dry that mummies have been found there. Human bodies don't break down as quickly without moisture in the air. Hair and even skin remain. The Cauchilla Cemetery is the location of many of these remains, which date back to the 800s. Visitors can visit the cemetery and see the open tombs. Luxor, Egypt. Many people picture Egypt as a sandy, hot place, and for the most part, that's true. Luxor in Egypt, home to many treasures from ancient times, is always very warm. In summer, temperatures can get as hot as 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius. In the cool season, around April, the wind called Khamsin blows in from the Libyan or Western Desert. It causes temperatures to rise very quickly in just a few hours, and sandstorms begin. Raindrops that may come with the storms evaporate before they hit the ground. Death Valley. The driest and hottest place in North America is Death Valley. It's located in California. Rainfall there is often less than 2 inches, 5.1 centimeters a year. Most deserts receive more rain than this. Temperatures in Death Valley have reached 134 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius. Travelers long ago gave this place its scary nickname because the valley was so hard to cross. Like the Atacama Desert, Death Valley can blame its lack of rain on the mountain ranges between it and the Pacific Ocean. Yuma, sunniest U.S. city. Yuma, Arizona is the sunniest city in the United States. It only rains about 17 days a year. It's the driest U.S. city, with only about 3 inches, 7.6 centimeters of rain a year. These conditions mean that water conservation efforts are important. People find ways to use as little water as possible in their homes, as well as for farms and businesses. In fact, all the places in this book where people live depend on science and inventions to help with the lack of water. People can't live without water. I Have an Ear Infection by Jillian Gossman. I have an ear infection. Have you been fighting a cold lately? Did your parents and older sisters and brothers have a lot of ear infections when they were kids? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are more likely to get an ear infection. If you have ever had an ear infection, you would know it. Your ears will hurt. You may feel sick to your stomach. You may have trouble sleeping. An ear infection probably will not last long, though. This book will explain what an ear infection is and how to treat it. What is an ear infection? An ear infection is a bacterial infection of the ear. The most common kind of ear infection is an infection of the middle ear. The middle ear is connected to the nose and throat by the eustachian tube. The eustachian tube helps air flow in and out of the middle ear. It also helps mucus drain from the middle ear. Your eustachian tubes can become swollen or bigger. When this happens, they cannot drain mucus quickly and completely. The mucus can trap bacteria, and the bacteria then infect the middle ear. What causes an ear infection? The eustachian tubes may become swollen for many reasons. If you have a cold or allergies, your eustachian tubes may become irritated. Babies and children's eustachian tubes are shorter than those of adults and get infected more easily. This is why ear infections are more common in kids than in adults. Very young children who are getting their first teeth have more mucus and saliva in their mouths. This can make it more likely for them to get ear infections. Smoke or other things in the air around you can also irritate your eustachian tubes and lead to ear infections. What's going on in my body? Bacteria are tiny living things. They live well in wet, dark places. They do best in the body of a host or another living thing. When bacteria enter the body, they can easily spread and multiply or make copies of themselves. The body's immune system makes the body a bad place for the bacteria to live. For example, the immune system raises the body's temperature and sends germ-fighting cells to battle the bacteria. A lot of the body's energy is used to fight the infection, which is why we usually feel tired when we are sick. How did I get an ear infection? An ear infection is not a contagious illness. That means that it is not caught through contact with a sick person. However, ear infections are most common when colds and other contagious infections are in the air. The common cold virus travels through the air in tiny drops of mucus that leave the body through a sick person's nose and mouth when he coughs, sneezes, or blows his nose. This mucus can then make its way into the noses, eyes, and mouths of healthy people and make them sick. They may get a cold and then an ear infection. Going to the doctor. If you think you might have an ear infection, you should visit the doctor. The doctor will ask you questions about how you feel. She might also ask the adult who comes with you questions about your family history. This is because ear infections are more common in children whose parents, sisters, and brothers also had ear infections. The doctor will examine or look at your ear using an instrument called an otoscope. An otoscope is like a flashlight, but with a small, bright tip. Signs and symptoms. When you visit the doctor, she will gather information by examining you and doing tests. The pieces of information the doctor gathers about an illness are called signs. Using an otoscope, the doctor might see redness and bloody mucus in your ear. The patient also describes the illness to the doctor. The pieces of information the patient gives the doctor are called symptoms. Symptoms of an ear infection include ear pain, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and some hearing loss in the infected ear. How an ear infection is treated. An infection of the middle ear can go away without medical treatment. Often a doctor will prescribe a medicine called an antibiotic, though. Patients take antibiotics twice each day for 10 days. Usually the bacteria have been killed by then, and the patient will feel much better. If a patient has many ear infections, though, the doctor may tell him to take antibiotics every day for a longer period of time. If the ear infections continue, the doctor may think the next step should be placing tiny tubes in the ear to help empty the middle ear of mucus. How to prevent an ear infection. The best way to prevent ear infections is to avoid the things that can cause them. Try not to spend a lot of time with people sick with colds. If you do, wash your hands often to kill any germs you have picked up. Avoid smoke and things you are allergic to. This will help keep your eustachian tubes from becoming irritated. A way to prevent getting another ear infection is to treat today's ear infection well. Take all of the antibiotic medicine prescribed by your doctor, even if you begin to feel better before the medicine is finished. The road to recovery. Most patients begin feeling better 1 or 2 days after beginning to take an antibiotic medicine. Sometimes an ear infection can cause the eardrum to rupture or break. A tear or hole in the eardrum usually heals on its own in 1 or 2 months. It is very important to visit your doctor, follow your treatment plan, and take care of yourself. This will put you on the road to recovery and to feeling better. Adjectives and Adverbs by Kara Murray. Describing words. What are the words that add spice to our sentences? They are adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives are words that describe nouns. Adverbs describe verbs. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Many nouns are things that we can touch, see, smell, or feel. A verb is an action word. Verbs are actions that nouns can take. A sentence without either adjectives or adverbs can give you information, but it will not tell you much. For example, compare these two sentences. The dog runs. The black dog runs fast. Which sentence gives you a better picture in your mind? Different kinds of adjectives. Adjectives supply many ways to describe how something looks, feels, tastes, or acts. Did you know that numbers can be adjectives? They tell us how many of a noun is being talked about. Colors can be adjectives too. You may be wondering how to pick which adjectives to use. It helps to think about exactly what you want to say. Look at these 3 sentences. My brother is happy. My brother is pleased. My brother is joyful. Each one says something slightly different. To pick the best adjective, think hard about what you want to tell your reader about your brother's feelings. Noun, verb, or adjective. Did you know that nouns are sometimes used as adjectives? Colors are words that can be both. Blue is a noun in the sentence, blue is my favorite color. It is an adjective in the sentence, I wore my blue shirt. It describes the noun shirt. Do you know what kinds of words end in ing or ed? If you said verbs, you are right. However, verbs that end in ing, ed, or en can also act as adjectives. For example, waiting is an adjective in the sentence, there is a waiting list to join this class. It describes the list. All about adverbs. Just like adjectives, adverbs are words used to describe. Adverbs, though, are used to describe verbs, other adverbs, adjectives, and phrases. If you wanted to write about how a monkey climbs up a tree, how might you describe it? You could write that it climbs easily. Easily is an adverb that tells us how the monkey climbs. You might also write that it climbs very easily. In this case, very and easily are both adverbs. Very is describing easily. Adverbs tell us how, when, where, why, or how often something happens. They tell us so much about how things are done. Adverb clues. There is a clue that helps you guess that a word might be an adverb. Many adverbs end in ly. When you add ly to an adjective, you make an adverb. Think about how you did your homework last night. You could have done it carefully, correctly, easily, or quietly. When writing, remember that adverbs help paint a clearer picture in a reader's mind. If you are writing about a trip you took, think about how it went. Did you arrive quickly, or did it take a long time to get there? What adverbs could you use to describe how you traveled? The other adverbs. While most adverbs are formed by adding ly to adjectives, a few are not. Late, fast, and hard do not take an ly when they become adverbs. The adjective good becomes the adverb well. You just have to remember these adverbs. Certain adverbs are used to tell us how much or to what degree something is true. One of these is very. If you write, I walked very softly through the house, that is a little different from writing, I walked softly through the house. Both describe the same action, but the first brings attention to just how softly you walked. Where did they go? You might be wondering where in a sentence to put adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives often go right in front of the nouns they are describing. Let's say you want to describe a boy's visit to a doctor. You want to note that the doctor is tall and the boy is sick. You would write, The sick boy visited the tall doctor. When adverbs are describing verbs, they usually follow the verbs. If you want to write that someone was
Verbs by Kara Murray. What is a verb? What would our language be like without verbs? Not very exciting, that's for sure. Verbs are words used to show action or conditions. You cannot say much without using verbs. Some verbs that describe actions are wish, seem, and believe. Verbs are central to any sentence. They tell us what the noun in the sentence is doing. Nouns are people, places, or things. A very simple sentence could be just a noun and a verb. Some verbs are used to help describe action. Both is and running are verbs in the sentence, Sam is running. Is helps describe the action. The right verb. Think of as many verbs as you can. I bet you can come up with a lot. Picking the right word to use is a skill that takes time and practice. It helps to think about exactly what you want to say. Many verbs describe almost the same action, but have small differences. For example, look at the following sentences. Nathalie jumped over the puddle. Nathalie hopped over the puddle. Nathalie leapt over the puddle. They all describe the same action, but each is slightly different. A hop is a small jump, while a leap is larger. Regular verbs. To pick the right form of a verb, you need to know the verb's subject. Subjects are nouns or pronouns that do a verb's action. Most verbs are regular. When a regular verb subject is I, you, we, or they, use the base form. This is the form you would find in a dictionary. Use the base form with plural nouns too. If the subject is he, she, it, or a singular noun, add an S to the base form. If the base form ends in Y, drop the Y and add IES instead of S. When writing, always use the verb form for the subject. For example, write they like, not they likes. Irregular verbs. Some verbs do not follow the easy pattern that regular verbs do. These verbs are irregular. Irregular verbs follow no pattern. You have to learn them with use. One irregular verb that we use every day is the verb to be. The correct forms of to be are I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, and they are. As with regular verbs, it is important to use the verb form that is correct for a sentence's subject. Write I am instead of I is or I be. Irregular verbs can be confusing. The more you read, though, the more comfortable you will become with them. The past. How do you tell someone what happened yesterday? Verbs can do that. You can use verbs to talk about events that are happening now, events that have happened in the past, or events that will happen in the future. Verbs used to talk about events that happened in the past take a special form. Usually, you add ed to the base form of the verb. As an example, let's take the sentence, my class ends at 3 o'clock. To describe this event as having happened in the past, you would write, my class ended at 3 o'clock. The irregular past. While only a few verbs are irregular when talking about events that are happening now, many more verbs are irregular when talking about events that happened in the past. These can be tricky to learn. However, the more you read, the more you will learn. There is no easy pattern to the past forms of irregular verbs. You simply have to remember them. For example, write is irregular in the past. The correct past form of write is wrote. Another verb that is irregular in the past is fall. Its past form is fell. Unfortunately, there are many more. The future. Now let's talk about events that have not yet happened. This future form is a little bit different from the others because it requires extra helping words. To talk about a future action, you can use will with a base form of the verb, such as I will start. You can also use a form of to be, followed by going to and the verb's base form, such as I am going to start. The two choices have slightly different meanings. Using will often means that one is choosing or promising to do something. Using be going to often expresses a set plan or something that you think will happen. New verbs. You are bound to come across some unfamiliar verbs while reading. Here's your chance to learn a new verb. One way to figure out the meaning of verbs is to look at the context, or words around them. You can also look closely at the word itself. Some unfamiliar words have roots or affixes with which you might be familiar. Let's say you read the sentence, "I hope this problem doesn't recur." Even if you don't know what recur means, re means again. Context could help you guess that recur means happen again. A little more help. Sometimes you might not be able to figure out a word's meaning through context, roots, or affixes. You might need a little more help. This is when a dictionary comes in handy. There are lots of online and print dictionaries. Some books have glossaries that list the meanings of words that appear in the book. Glossaries often appear at the back of a book. Don't let coming across words that you don't understand get you down. Learning new words is one of the best parts of reading. The more you read, the more you learn.
Giraffe is Left Out. Written by Sue Graves. Illustrated by Terver Dunton. It was Monday morning, and it was Leopard's first day at jungle school. Miss Bird said he could sit with Monkey, Little Lion, and Giraffe. She said Monkey, Little Lion, and Giraffe could be Leopard's friends and help him to feel welcome. But Giraffe was unhappy. Monkey and Little Lion were his friends. He did not want to be friends with Leopard. He did not want to make Leopard feel welcome. At playtime, Monkey, Little Lion, and Giraffe played soccer. Monkey said Leopard could play too, but Giraffe got angry. He said Leopard could not play. He told Leopard to go away. Leopard was sad. He did not like being left out. Little Lion said Giraffe was being very unkind. On Tuesday, Leopard came to school early. He was very excited. He said it was his birthday on Saturday. He said everyone could come to his party. Leopard gave out lots of invitations, but he did not give an invitation to Giraffe. Giraffe was upset. He did not like being left out. Leopard told everyone about his party. He said it would be good fun. He said everyone would get party hats. He said there would be lots of games to play. He said there would be cakes and other treats to eat. He said there would be races too. Giraffe felt sad. He wished he could go to Leopard's party. But Monkey said that Giraffe had been unkind to Leopard. Little Lion said if he had been kinder, he might not have been left out. That afternoon, Miss Bird said they had to work with a partner to make model boats. She said everyone had to test the boats at the end to make sure they floated. She said Giraffe and Leopard had to work together. But Giraffe was mad. He told Miss Bird he did not want to work with Leopard. He said Leopard was not his friend. But Miss Bird did not listen. Giraffe had to cut out the boat shapes, but it was hard to do. Leopard helped him. He cut out the boat shapes really carefully. Giraffe was pleased. Leopard had to stick the boat shapes together, but it was hard to do. Giraffe helped him. He stuck the boat shapes together really carefully. Leopard was pleased. Then they had to test the boat to see if it floated. It was very hard to do, but they helped each other. Giraffe and Leopard were pleased when the boat floated. Miss Bird said they had worked well together. At playtime, Giraffe asked Leopard if he would like to play soccer with him, Monkey, and Little Lion. They all played together. Giraffe said Leopard was a good player. Giraffe said he was sorry for being unkind. He said he wanted to be friends. The next day, Leopard had a surprise for Giraffe. He gave him a big envelope. Inside the envelope was an invitation to Leopard's birthday party. Giraffe was very excited. He was glad that Leopard had not left him out. Soon it was Saturday, and everyone went to Leopard's party. There were lots of party hats. There were big hats and small hats. There were tall hats and floppy hats. Giraffe thought his hat was the best hat of all. There were lots of games to play. First, they played musical chairs, and Monkey won. He was very pleased. Then they played Sleeping Lions, and Little Lion won. He was very pleased. Next, they played Pass the Package, and Giraffe won. He was very, very pleased. Soon it was time to eat. Leopard's mom had made lots of cakes and other treats. There were blue cakes and red cakes. There were sticky buns and cherry buns. There was green jello and yellow jello. Everyone ate it all up. It was delicious. Then Leopard's dad said it was time to start the races. There was a running race and a hopping race. There was a sack race and a really silly race. Giraffe, Monkey, Little Lion, and Leopard liked the really silly race best of all. At last, it was time to go home. Everyone thanked Leopard for a lovely party. "Let's play together tomorrow," said Leopard. "Playing together is fun." "Yes," said Giraffe, "but let's all play together tomorrow. Then no one will be left out at all." She followed then Frances Cabrini, the first American saint. Barbara Tutt. Frances Cabrini. Growing up in Italy, my favorite subject was geography. Maybe I loved it because I was frail and sickly and could not travel outside my tiny village. With knowledge of distant lands, I could travel in my dreams. Sister Lucia. Mother Cabrini, look! I can see the shoreline. It's America. Cabrini. America, no longer just a dream. She marks the approximate location of New York City on the map and returns to her place. Narrator. In 1889, roughly 200,000 Italian immigrants lived in New York's poorest slums, living in poverty, toiling at the hardest jobs for the lowest wages. Many children were abandoned or orphaned, and schooling was out of the question when mere survival was a struggle. There were not enough Catholic priests and churches to give the immigrants the strong religious support they had been used to in Italy. Hearing of these problems, a young Catholic nun, Frances Cabrini, came to New York City. Soon, she and the 6 nuns with her took in their first orphan. Carmela stands. Poor child, you're shivering in those rags. What's your name? Carmela. I'm so frightened and hungry. Don't be afraid, Carmela. This is your home now. You must be angels. You're the angel, little one. Yes, we'll call this place the Asylum of the Holy Angels. Sister Lucia, there's an old wooden petticoat of mine in the traveling trunk. We'll rip it up and make a warm dress for Carmela. She can help. But I can't sew. We'll teach you how to sew, read, and do many other things. But first, go to the kitchen, Carmela. Carmela sits. Today's soup is almost gone. She can eat now, but what about tonight? And tomorrow? Get your shawl. We have plenty of time before dark. I'll get my prayer book, too. No, don't bother. Bring an empty basket instead. Aren't we going to the church to pray for guidance? We don't need guidance. We need food and money. Making their way through the slums of New York's Little Italy, Mother Cabrini and her nuns soon became a familiar sight in the neighborhood, begging for food and money. Within months, they were caring for hundreds of orphans. They also established Columbus Hospital. Wealthy supporters gave some money, but begging was always necessary. Sorry, sisters, business is no good. Just a few potatoes to spare, perhaps? No, nothing. What a shame your vegetable market isn't making money. We'll ask Giuseppe then. Last week he was very generous. Giuseppe? That no-good crook from the South? Are you saying he's got a better store than me? His vegetables are rotten, just like him. Here's a nice cabbage and 2 onions and all the potatoes you can carry. You're northern Italians, like me. We must stick together. Come here for what you need. Forget that southern rat, Giuseppe. Thank you, Antonio, but we're all Italians. No, we're all Americans now. If we fight among ourselves, how can any of us succeed here? Good day, Antonio. Antonio and Lucia sit. Mother Cabrini had no intention of staying just in New York. Knowing that Italians were living in poverty and despair in every major city of the country, she went to help them. Next stop, Newark, New Jersey. Sits. Cabrini marks the map and returns to her place. Please help. My sister died in a terrible accident at the clothing factory, and the factory owners never even said they were sorry. How can I take care of her 3 children? I work 16 hours a day in the factory myself and barely make enough to live. Bring them to our new mission. They will be loved as well as fed. Bless you. Sits. Denver, Denver, Colorado. After marking the map. Excuse me, conductor, is that a town I see, just west of here? No, ma'am, that's the railroad camp. They're layin' track farther west. Just a bunch of dirty Italian ruffians there in tents. Let me tell you how to find the finest hotel in Denver. Go up Main Street and... No, thank you. It's the railroad camp I came to visit. Train conductor shrugs in disbelief and sits. I'll take you there, sister. I work there. But you're only a boy. I'm almost 13. When my father hurt his back, I had to take his place or we would have starved. Why do you want to go to the camp anyway? To bring hope and warm blankets, and to build a mission, to let you know you're not alone in this new land. But what can you do? You're just a lady. You'll see. Carlo sits. Cabrini marks the map through the following. Mother Cabrini kept raveling, recruiting women to join her order, known as the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. With these workers, she established many services, including a school and orphanage in New Orleans, a hospital in Wyoming, and a mission in Los Angeles built from scrap materials that she salvaged from the demolition of an amusement park. In 1909, she became a U.S. citizen in Seattle, but she always returned to New York, her home base. Cabrini returns to her place. Meet one of our new sisters. I'm so glad to be back, Mother Cabrini. It's Carmela, remember? We made her a dress from your old petticoat 20 years ago. I was your first Italian orphan. Now I want to follow you. Carmela,
To have you follow me is the best reward of all. But you weren't my first Italian orphan. You were my first American orphan. Cabrini, Lucia, and Carmela sit. Frances Cabrini died in 1917 and was canonized by the Catholic Church in 1949. She was the first American saint.
Earth's Lowest Places by Bailey O'Connell. Seeing sea level. Have you heard the term sea level? It means the average level of the surface of the oceans when compared to land. Some places on Earth are way above sea level, such as Mount Everest. There are also places way below sea level, which you'll read about in this book. Many of these places contain water. That's because they fill up with rain and other sources of water, somewhat like a bowl. The changing conditions within Earth are often responsible for these low areas, dry or wet. The Dead Sea. Earth's crust is made up of pieces called tectonic plates. These plates are always moving, though very slowly. Their movements create some of Earth's landforms. The Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth, is located between the Arabian and the African tectonic plates in the Middle East. The Dead Sea is about 1,300 feet, 396 meters, below sea level. The plates' movements are causing the area to sink about 3.3 feet, 1 meter, a year. Death Valley. Death Valley contains the lowest point in North America. It's located in California and is about 282 feet, 86 meters, below sea level. Amazingly, less than 100 miles, 160 kilometers away, Mount Whitney rises 14,495 feet, 4,418 meters above sea level. Death Valley is a narrow region in southeastern California between the Range is on the west and the Amargosa Range is on the east. It's these mountain ranges that give us a clue about why Death Valley is so low. Why so low? Death Valley is located near where two tectonic plates are sliding by each other. The great force causes changes in the surrounding land. The mountains grow higher while the valley continues to slip down and become lower. Even today, we can't see it happening, but measurements taken over many years prove it to be true. Badwater Basin is the lowest point of all in Death Valley, and therefore North America. It lies in the shadow of Telescope Peak, which is 11,049 feet, 3,368 meters above sea level. Lake Assal. Lake Assal is the second lowest place in the world and the lowest in Africa. It's located in the country of Djibouti in eastern Africa. It's 509 feet, 155 meters below sea level. Scientists think there are several ways that Lake Assal could have formed. The first is that the lava from a volcano could have cooled to form the land that separates the lake from a nearby bay. Another way is that underground springs coming from the Indian Ocean formed the lake, which is how it gets its water today. Bentley Subglacial Trench. The lowest point on Earth not covered by water is in Antarctica. However, it's covered by ice. The Bentley Subglacial Trench in Antarctica reaches 8,383 feet, 2,555 meters below sea level. The trench is about the size of Mexico. However, most people don't include this place as one of the lowest points on Earth. That's because if the ice melted, it would be covered by water. However, much of Antarctica's land is ice. It's the highest continent on Earth because of its ice. New Orleans. Many people live in places below sea level. Cities are often built at or below sea level on the water so they can access water transportation routes. New Orleans, Louisiana is on the Gulf of Mexico at the mouth of the Mississippi River. These nearby bodies of water make New Orleans an important port city. However, it's mostly below sea level and sinking more every year. When Hurricane Katrina hit shore in 2005, the city couldn't drain the rising waters. Many deaths and great damage to the city resulted. Challenger Deep. So far, we've learned about places on Earth's crust. What about below the crust? The lowest point below Earth's crust is the Mariana Trench in the North Pacific Ocean. The Mariana Trench is caused by the Pacific tectonic plate sliding under the Philippine plate. Its deepest part, called Challenger Deep, has been measured at 36,201 feet, 11,034 meters deep. In this deep, dark part of the ocean live sea creatures unlike those near the surface. They have to be tough. Water near vents in the trench floor can reach 572 degrees Fahrenheit, 300 degrees Celsius. Ever-changing Earth. As deep as the Mariana Trench is, it's not the place closest to the center of Earth. Earth isn't perfectly round. It swells or bulges around its middle. That means the distance to Earth's center from the poles is closer than the distance to Earth's center from the equator. Scientists think the Arctic seafloor is closer to Earth's center than Challenger Deep. Will explorers find places deeper than Challenger Deep someday? Our planet is always changing, so the landscape of the future is anyone's guess.
How to use technology to write and publish.